I thought this is what you wanted to play. We can change if you want to.
Girls, I'm leaving to go visiting teaching now. You'll be all right for a while, won't you?
Yes, Mother, we'll be all right.
Okay, bye. See you later.
Bye, Mom. Emily, why don't we go visiting teaching too? We can't do that. Only mothers go visiting teaching. Maybe we could pretend. Maybe, but who would we go to visit? Maybe Sister Jones next door wouldn't mind. Well, okay, but we have to find an inside magazine first. Mother always carries one with her when she goes visiting teaching.
Well, hello, girls. How are you today?
We're fine, Sister Jones. We're visiting teachers. Yes, we have the ensign too. Sister Jones, why do visiting teachers carry the ensign?
Well, everyone doesn't. But the reason most visiting teachers carry their ensign is because each month it has a special uplifting message for us to share. Come on in, I'll tell you about it. It's funny you should come today, girls. I was just reading about visiting teaching. The message only became part of the program in 1921, but the visiting teaching program got started with the early saints in Nauvoo, and it was called the Necessity Committee.
Necessity Committee? I like that.
The original Necessity Committee was made up of 16 women, 4 sisters for each of the 4 wards in Nauvoo. The sisters would go from house to house, assessing the needs in each home. After visiting each family and learning of the individual needs, the visiting teachers would have a meeting, and reports would be given in the meeting about any sisters who needed help. Now, many sisters would not need any assistance and would generously and compassionately donate food, clothing, or money. These items would be stored, usually in someone's home, until a need arose for them. During the course of the meeting, those in need were identified, and visiting teachers were then assigned to take things from the storage and deliver it where it was needed. During this time, there were a lot of new converts coming into Nauvoo. They might have traveled hundreds of miles or even come over the ocean from England. But by the time they reached Nauvoo, they wouldn't have much left in the way of personal belongings. And of course, they had no homes to live in. The sisters would take families into their homes that they didn't even know to feed and care for. Most of the time, the families would stay only a month or 2 in the sisters' homes. But sometimes necessity would require them to stay even longer until they were able to be self-supporting. Sometimes something as small to us as knitting yarn and needles were greatly prized because a pair of warm mittens helped a lot during the cold winter months. So if another sister's need was greater, it was given to the person who needed it. A small rug on the floor didn't seem very important if someone was going cold. Why, on one occasion I read about, a sister was walking down the street in her warm coat. She saw someone who was without a coat and simply took hers off and gave it away. The sisters were great with a needle and thread, too. They would make quilts and clothing for their own families, but also to give away to those in need. Sisters made shirts for the temple workers, too, for those who were actually building the temple, and later for the workers inside the temple. The temple was really beautiful when it was finished, and those first visiting teachers really exemplified the Relief Society's theme of compassionate service and charity for all. So, you can see, girls, that the start of the visiting teaching program was really something, can't you? Girls. Girls. Well, I guess I got a little carried away.
Well, that wasn't so bad. Sister Jones was nice. Yes, she was, and she didn't even get upset when we fell asleep. I don't suppose regular visiting teachers fell asleep very often. I don't suppose they do. Anyway, that was fun. Could we go visit somebody else, Emily? I guess so. Oh boy, we will be the necessity committee. Us is, well, I do not believe this. Where should we go next, Susan? Maybe to Sister Johnson. She teaches primary and has 6 children of her own. She wouldn't mind us coming.
Well, hello, girls. What can I do for you today?
We are the necessity committee. We are here to find out your needs to make it tell on you.
Tell on me? I don't think I have any needs that need telling, but you could come in and visit me.
Thank you, Sister Johnson. We brought the enzyme, too.
Well, how nice. Come on in, girls. Sit right here, girls. This is where my other visiting teachers sit when they come to visit teach me. Do you think I could get you a drink? Visiting teaching can be pretty hard work.
Oh, yes, Sister Johnson. That would be just great. What is it, Emily?
Okay, I'll be right back.
I think being the necessity committee sounds better than visiting teacher. Maybe she let us in because we said we were the necessity committee. She would have let us in anyway. I don't think she had anything else to do today.
Here you are, girls. Have a glass of milk and a cookie. I just finished putting the frosting on them.
Thank you, Sister Johnson. Is this what happens when visiting teachers come?
Yes, you can give them milk and cookies. Sometimes I take cookies to the sisters that I visit teach.
Did the pioneers suddenly teach too?
Oh yes, I remember my grandmother telling me that in Salt Lake City there was a lot of sickness and the sisters had to take care of each other. In fact, there was so much sickness in the Salt Lake City of the 1880s that much of a visiting teacher's time was spent in caring for those who were not well. Because there was not much medical care and little knowledge of sanitation, when babies were born, much consideration was given to the mothers and new babies to keep them healthy. Often, however, sisters died and were lovingly prepared for burial by their visiting teachers. The sewing machine was invented about this time and was especially appreciated by the sisters for the making and mending of clothing, both for themselves and for families in need. The sisters also raised their own gardens, and often the produce from their gardens and the home-sewn clothing was what they donated when items were collected and dispersed to the needy. There were also many people moving into the Salt Lake Valley who needed temporary help as they got resettled. Plus, many of the visiting sisters helped to care for their Lamanite brothers and sisters who lived close by. After many years of sickness in the valley, some of the sisters were asked to go away to school to learn how to be doctors and nurses, which they did. When they returned, they taught their sisters hygiene and home health care. By this time, Salt Lake City had grown to quite a large size, and the visiting teachers often had to walk long distances to find their sisters to visit, but they did it. I think being a visiting teacher in pioneer times must have been pretty difficult, don't you? Oh dear! Let me get a washcloth for you girls.
Why do we need a washcloth? Because you have a dirty face, Susan. Well, yeah, well, so do you, Emily.
Here you are, girls. Let me clean you up a little bit. I guess it's just about time for you girls to go, isn't it?
Yes. Thank you, Sister Johnson, for telling us about the pioneers visiting teacher. They're pretty busy, it looks like to me. Do you think we have done enough visiting teaching, Emily? I'm getting tired. I think we should go to one more house. The visiting teacher is supposed to help the poor and needy. I heard Mom say that Sister Smith was poor. What did she say? Well, she was talking to Dad, and telling him that she was sad since her husband had died last year. And Dad said, "Oh, she must be lonely." Then Mom said, "Oh, that poor lady, so that means she's poor and we should go to visit her." "Okay, but she will be the last one." "Hey, look, there's her house up there."
Well, hello, girls. Did your mother send you over for something?
"No, Sister Smith, we are visiting teachers. My mother said you were poor, but it doesn't look like it to me."
Poor? Your mother said I was poor?
"Yes, Dad told that you were lonely, and Mother said, 'Oh, that poor lady.'"
Oh, well, maybe I am poor in some ways, especially in spirit. Come in, girls. Maybe you can lift my spirits today. Goodness, are you all right?
"I guess so. I sure am sorry."
Oh, that's all right. This is just an old vase anyway. It probably wasn't worth much.
"Were you a pioneer, Sister Smith?"
No, not quite. But I was around in the 1930s. That's just before the big World War.
"What was it like, Sister Smith? Were there visiting teachers in those days?"
Oh my, yes. When I was first married and we moved here, why, the visiting teachers came and helped me get settled. Then, as our children came along, my visiting teachers and I often took turns caring for each other's children. My children sure enjoyed having others to play with, and it gave us mothers a nice change. None of us had cars in those days, so often we would walk to do our visiting teaching. Some of those walks and talks turned out to be real highlights in our lives. I remember one sister who was not very well, and we would walk to her home outside of town to visit and read to her. You know, that was at the end of the Depression years and the start of the war, and none of us had very much in terms of money. Often the visiting teachers would bring a bag of groceries just when we needed it most. Sometimes we wondered how they knew we needed it, but they did, and it was lovingly appreciated. We traded with each other too. We might not have had money to buy things, but we could trade goods, and that was a help. My, those were the days.
"Come on in, baby. We gotta go home right now."
Oh, I have a bathroom here you can use.
"This house has a bathroom, too."
Yes, come on, I'll show you the way.
Hey, this has been really neat. We've learned a lot about visiting teaching. I wonder if Mother does the same things. Maybe we can ask her when we get home. We have had the most best day. We have learned all about the Necessity Committee.
The Necessity Committee? What's that?
Well, when you left, we decided to go visiting teaching. Sister Jones told us about the Necessity Committee and how it got started. The Necessity Committee is visiting teacher. Didn't you know that?
I guess I did. You went visiting teaching?
Yes, we did. And we had a great time. Do you do what they used to do, Mom?
Well, I guess so. Maybe some things are different. Let's sit down and see what you've learned. Today, visiting teachers do many things, like take in food to new mothers who have just had a baby.
Sometimes sisters will be sick or have had surgery, and a nice visit is appreciated by them. Another thing a visiting teacher might do today is to visit or take an elderly sister for a car ride who doesn't get out and around much. And with so many of our sisters working outside the home now, there's often not time to make visits or help out as much as they would like.
But a phone call helps to cheer someone who needs a little extra encouragement to get through the day's diapers and laundry and nights of interrupted sleep. But you know, visiting teachers don't always meet with success. Sometimes we approach our less active sisters and they might reject our visits and the message that we'd like to share with them. Then we try to figure out what to do to help. And often it's prayer that helps the most. A good listening ear is appreciated. Hopefully someone who can hear our problems and still love us. Then there's the message we share. I really like to read those lessons and talk about them with the sisters we visit. But probably the thing I remember best was the birthday luncheon my visiting teachers had for me last year. Those are some of the things that we do today. Are they similar to the things that you've learned from your sisters when you visited?
Yes, some of the things are the same, some are different. You don't collect money and food and clothing, do you?
No, the welfare program was started in 1921. They take care of the food and clothing.
It seems like the things that they did were harder than the things like today. They didn't even have cars and they had to walk everywhere.
Even though we do have cars, it's still hard though, because it seems like there's more and more to do and less time to get through it. I guess what it really shows us is that even through all the years, visiting teachers just keep going, overcoming whatever obstacles they find. Oh, it's getting late. Dad will be home soon. Shall we get started on dinner? Emily, will you help me with the vegetables? Susan, you can help set the table.
Mother, why do you go visiting teaching?
Well, it's part of Heavenly Father's plans for His daughters. He knew when we came to earth that we would need lots and lots of help. And it's a way that we can help others and also help ourselves in our spiritual growth. Plus, it's a wonderful way to show our love for Heavenly Father.
Do you like being a visiting teacher?
Yes, I do.
Mother, do you ever run out of sick and needy people?
No, there's always someone who needs help. Just have to always keep looking.
We've sure learned a lot today. Oh, Mother, I want to be a visiting teacher when I grow up. Me too, me too.
I hope you will. I hope you will. In fact, I can almost guarantee that you'll have that opportunity.